Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the next video in our Remote Routes series. In the last video we're right at the bottom of the world and we're back on top of the world, this time in Anchorage, Alaska. We're also back in the PMDG 737, this time the 737-700 in the colours of Alaska Airlines. And as you can see from the video description, we're flying to Adak Island, which is the furthest island in the Aleutian chain. So in this video we're probably going to be closer to Russia than the United States. Getting right into Sin Brief, you can see the plan for this flight takes us southwest out of Anchorage and making our way down the entire length of the Aleutian Island chain to Adak Island. This is a route that Alaska fly once a day, every day. But for the purpose of this video, I've set the calendar to the 1st of June 2022, using historical weather in active sky from the 1st of June 2021. As I recorded this flight in January 2022, being so far north that it would have been pitch black for most of the flight down to Adak, and that's simply no use for these videos. Right, jumping back into the cockpit of the awesome PMDG 737-700NGXu for prepared 3D version 4 and above. The flight plan has already been programmed into the flight sim and of course the FMC, so we're ready to go. If you're wondering why the cockpit windows look a bit steamed up, well, you're not the only one, because it took me a little while to work out that until the window heat is switched on, the cockpit windows would remain misted up. However, I didn't switch on the cockpit window heaters until after I'd powered up the engines, so it'll take me a few more minutes before the windows start to clear up or demist.
Anchorage, clear for delivery, Alaska 184 Boeing 737, IFR, Papa Alpha Delta Kilo, ready to copy. Alaska 184 is cleared, Papa Alpha Delta Kilo, airport as filed. Flight runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 13,000. Departure frequency at 119.17244.
Departure check completed. Bypass bin inserted. Release parking brakes. Commencing push. Set parking brakes. Kick here. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass bin removed.
As you can see, it didn't take that long for the windows to clear after the heaters have been switched on. There was going to be a runway change from the original plan, so that meant I had to re-verify the takeoff speeds for today's flight down to Adak Island.
Anchorage, ground, Alaska 184 with information, Foxtrot, west taxi, IFR. Alaska 184, taxi holding point runway 7 left, using taxiway to code 1 Golf Kilo Hotel. Contact tower on 11 decimal feet when ready. Taxi, hold short runway 7 left, via taxiway to code 1 Golf Kilo Hotel. Alaska 184.
As we taxi out to the runway, it's time to tell you a little bit about the scenery I've got installed here and prepared a 3D version 4.5 for Anchorage, Alaska. It's of course from Aerosoft, and that's Aerosoft Anchorage Professional for prepared 3D version 4 and above. I think this is the only payware scenery that's available for Anchorage International Airport here in Alaska. For prepared, of course, I used to have this scenery in FSX and I upgraded it once it was available for prepared 3D, and the 64-bit version being 4.5. P3Dv4.5. When we get down to Adak Island, you'll be seeing stock scenery in Prepare. I think I'd been to Adak once before in Flight Sim, but it was back in the days when I was flying in FSX. I'm not sure if there's any payware add-on scenery available for Adak Island. However, I wouldn't be buying scenery anyway, as I'll not be flying there very often. Anyway, time for me to stop talking and concentrate as I taxi this PMDG 737-700 to the active runway here at Anchorage.
Clear for takeoff. Runway 7 left, Alaska 184.
Due to the runway change, we didn't really follow the SID on this departure from Anchorage, instead following ATC. But to be honest, it wasn't too long before we were vectored back on track, heading southwest towards the Bering Sea, the Pacific Ocean, and of course the Aleutian Island chain.
Control Embraer November 77. Runway, Anchorage control at 1. Left heading 180, proceed on course over 2125.7, Alaska 1.
Our journey continued at flight level 360, in a southwesterly direction towards Adak Island. It was a fairly overcast day, as you can see, and there were very few breaks in the cloud, and therefore there was very little to see over this very remote part of the world. As the top of descent came into view on the MFD, I was hoping for arrival into runway 23 at Adak. The reason, of course, is runway 23 was the only runway at Adak with ILS. There wasn't even an RNAV approach into runway 05. But as you guessed it, Murphy's Law struck, and I was being vectored towards runway 05 and a visual approach into runway 05. Being the Sunday pilot and therefore the rank amateur that I am, I was in no doubt that this approach was going to be ugly, and extremely ugly at that. The challenge at Adak runway 05 isn't the fact that there's absolutely no nav aids on approach, but according to the weather, visibility was poor, but well within the threshold for a captain's landing. I would therefore be approaching over the cliff and a fairly high hill, making my final descent into runway 05 a totally manual approach, flown all the way down by hand. It was therefore never going to be pretty. So with my excuses out of the way, here we go. return to Adak Island, Alaska. I know guys, that was a really horrible landing. However, with Adak designed to be a military base, I knew the runway here was going to be really long and I had plenty of tarmac to get this Boeing 737 down. Anyways, time to taxi this Boeing 737-700 to the small terminal and bring another episode of Sim Sunday to a close. In the next video, we're off to somewhere a lot warmer than Alaska, that being the Seychelles, in an Embraer ERJ 190. And that video will be the last in a remote routes mini-series. So you know what to do guys. If you want to continue to follow these flights on YouTube, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So until then, thank you very much for watching. And wherever you're flying in your virtual world, don't forget to fly safe.